Hi, Jamie Nichols here to talk with you about doing elementary school book fairs. Let's start with the rules. In order to do a book fair with an elementary school, you have to be an ESR. That's a separate certification that you're able to get through back office. If you're not an ESR, you may not work with elementary schools to set up a book fair. You can't even approach the elementary school to kind of feel them out to see if they might be interested. In order to do those things, you have to be an ESR first. If you are an ESR, then you have to make sure that the school that you want to work with has not been listed. If you're able to, list the school. If your listings are already filled up and you want to work with a school that's unlisted, that's okay, but there's a risk to that. You're able to work with them until someone else lists it. So at any point, someone else could list the school, and then you would have to hand the school over to them no matter how much work you've done. So once you've listed a school that you'd like to work with, go ahead and set up a meeting with the librarian to talk about all the different programs. When you've determined that you want to do a book fair, have a separate meeting specifically to discuss the book fair. In this meeting, make sure that the librarian is present, of course, and also see if a member of the PTA can attend. When discussing a book fair, here are some key points that you want to talk about. Talk about how high quality our books are, especially if the librarian or the PTO president hasn't seen the books yet. Talk about the fact that we have books at all price points, so any child should be able to come in and purchase a book even if they have $5. Also, make sure to mention that we don't sell trinkets. This is a huge selling point. A lot of times book fairs come in and they have, in addition to books, they have pencils or toys or things like that that students can buy. Teachers do not like this because kids come back from the book fair with things that are a distraction to other people. Also, I do all the setup and all the tear down, and this is a benefit for the school. They don't have things to bring to your meeting. Make sure that you bring some sample books, especially if the school is not familiar with Usborne Books and More. Bring business cards for all the people who will be in attendance, as well as a catalog so that they can take it with them and continue to look at it. Once you've set up your book fair, here are a couple of things to discuss and consider. Will classes be allowed to go through the book fair during preview week? Typically, the week prior to the book fair opening, there's a preview week where classes can walk through the book fair, creating a wish list and getting excited about the books that they have. No purchases are made during this week, but kids are able to go through and see the books that we have. You also want to find out when students will be allowed to shop. Will they only be allowed to come to the book fair before and after school? Will they be able to come during recess or lunch? Is there going to be a designated time that each class comes into the book fair? This will help you plan to know when the book fair needs to be open, and the success of your book fair can depend heavily on when you schedule the book fair to be. Talk with the librarian and the PTO president and find out when they have events going on at the school. For example, if they're having another fundraiser or a jump rope for heart, you don't want to schedule your book fair to be at the same time because then parents are kind of splitting their money between the two different events. So try to pick a time so that your book fair coincides with another event where parents will be on campus. For example, maybe a grandparents' breakfast or a Thanksgiving feast. A recent book fair that I did began on parent-teacher conference night. So parents and teachers could discuss how their child might be struggling with reading or needing a book that's more challenging. They could leave the meeting and come straight to the book fair where I could make recommendations for a book that would fit their needs. This was really helpful for me. Also, we had a grandparents' breakfast on a Saturday during my book fair. So grandparents had to walk past the book fair on the way in and on the way out, and of course their grandkids drug them in and they bought books. Grandparents typically buy more books than parents do, so having a time that coincides with grandparents being on campus is super helpful. Opening. So on the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, before the book fair started, students were able to come in with their classes, walk through the book fair and see what books they wanted, and then they were able to fill out a wish list that was provided for them. So I provided a wish list copy to the school. They made copies for me, which was really helpful, and then they gave them out to the students. So as students came into the book fair preview, they took their wish list, they walked around and found the books they wanted, they wrote them down and the prices, and they were able to bring that home. I'll include a copy of the form that I used, and you can tweak it to fit your own needs. In addition to sending home the wish list, the PTO really helped me out by advertising on the Facebook page, sending a little advertising section in the newsletter. By providing parents with the link ahead of time, they were able to send that link to family and friends who didn't even live in the area and to tell them, hey, Aunt so-and-so, you can order a book through this link for your kiddos or my kiddos for Christmas, and the school still benefits by a 50% match. So the PTO was an amazing help for me. They provided volunteers to help during preview week when I was not on campus so that they could make sure that no books were being taken or damaged. They also provided volunteers during heavy traffic times so that I was able. The PTO also ran a raffle. Now in most states, it is not legal for you to run a raffle where people purchase a raffle ticket to get a basket full of books. That is not legal in most states. However, the PTO is able to host so many raffles during the year. So our PTO agreed to do a raffle in the book fair. So parents, grandparents, and students were able to buy raffle tickets for $1 each, and then those raffle tickets went into a drawing for a basket of books that I donated to the school. Here's some supplies that are helpful to bring to the book fair. First, I used the purple tablecloths that you can get in back office to cover the tables, and that gave the book fair a different kind of look. It looked really classy and professional, but different than other book fairs where there's just the big metal cases. I also bought book racks that I was able to set up on the table, so some books were in racks and some were set across the table. This was helpful to get height and that kids could have things on their eye level, and I'll put a link in the comments of the book racks that I used. I also ordered one catalog for every teacher in the school. Now I know that this is an investment and you certainly don't have to do this, but I felt like it was helpful. Each teacher received a catalog, my business card, and then a wish list for themselves to fill out. I ordered posters that were able to be displayed at the front office and in the hallways. Just make sure that you talk to the school to see if those posters will be allowed and where they're able to be hung. I also ordered the book fair stickers in back office, and this was really helpful because as students left on the first day of the book fair from school, the teachers gave each of the students a sticker to put on their shirt. So when the kiddos were getting in the car with their parents, the parents were able to see right away, oh, this is book fair week. You're going to need to bring tons of change, like coins. Most of the students are going to come in with cash, and you want to make sure that you have enough money to make change for each of the students. You don't want to run out of change as you're going along. You're also going to need some kind of system to keep track of anything that's purchased for a teacher off of their wish list, or anything that a student is purchasing that they're wanting to order. I asked every teacher and professional in the building to fill out a wish list. This was a list of books that they would like to have in their office or in their classroom. Then the PTO helped advertise to parents that there would be wish lists if they wanted to buy a gift. So in order to have the books at the book fair, you'll have to take out consignment. Now with any consignment order, there's going to be a little bit of guesswork to see what books are going to be successful and which ones are not. But here are a couple of tips to help you when you're selecting what books you want to get out for consignment. Ask the librarian if they've had book fairs in the past, what were the sales like at those book fairs? And don't be surprised if they say $7,000 to $10,000 or even more than that. You want to find out if there's anything unique about the school that you're working with. Do they have a trilingual program? Do they have a super active history club? That will help you know if there needs to be any specialized books. I'll include a list of books that have been successful for me in selling at book fairs. But you also want to talk to the librarian and see what books they recommend. You will probably need to ask for an increase in your consignment limit, and you can do that by just submitting a support ticket. Try to schedule a couple of booths after your book fair event. That way, if you have books that don't sell, you have another avenue to sell them after the book fair is over. Another great tip is to provide some of your storybooks or shine-a-light books to the classrooms to borrow prior to the book fair. That way, kids are familiar with some of their favorite stories. As they come into the book fair, they can... Now, the day before preview day, I came with all the books and all the supplies, and of course, one of my Aussie buddies, who's really great. And we set up the entire book fair. I tried to put books in natural groupings. So for younger children, I put those books together. For older children, I put those books together. I made sure to put all the storybooks in one place, as well as all the bargain books in one area. So I do not accept checks at the book fair at all. It was just too big of a risk of a check bouncing or something going wrong, so I chose not to accept that. I did have Square available so that teachers or parents could use a credit or debit card to make a purchase, and then of course I took cash. I chose to allow students to order books that had already been sold out. So if their best friend got the last copy of a book, they could go ahead and pay for the book, and I would take note that they had paid for it, and I'd let them know that as soon as the books came in, I would deliver it to their classroom. Then from the beginning, I let the librarian know the deadline for getting me the list of free books that she wanted to select. Then, as the book fair was selling, I would keep her updated. You've already got $1,000 in free books to choose. How's your list coming along? I also offered to help the librarian in selecting books. Once you have your list from the librarian, now you're ready to close the book fair. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into back office, you're going to import your e-fair and connect it to your specific school and enter any full retail books and then select the free books that you're going to have. Make sure that you have the correct address for mailing because you don't want the books to go to the wrong place and be waiting outside overnight in the rain. I was able to have the books delivered to my home, and that way I could go through and find if there were any missing or damaged books, and you earn 17% commission on all book fair orders. There are a lot of benefits to doing a book fair. First of all, if you're working on trip points or meeting a goal, this is a really great way to do that because you typically get a lot of sales. But probably the greatest part about doing a book fair is that you actually get to see the kids falling in love with the books right in front of you. I hope you decide to do a book fair to kind of get out of your comfort zone and try something new that could be a lot of fun for your business. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment below and we'll do our very best to get all the answers to you. Don't be intimidated. Book fairs are actually a lot of fun.